Hello guys, I'm Futureal. I stream 5 days a week over on twitch.tv/Futureal, and in this video you're about to see here, we are back with the Project Diablo 2 Season 6 beta test. For this season, we're going to do the videos a little bit differently. We're going to do a little bit more focused on TLDR. The videos have a tendency to get very, very long. So we are going to do a bit of TLDR for you. So we have decided for this budget level 80 early game farm video to do only the best class or the best build for each class. That's what we're going to show off, but we are going to talk about the other builds and give them kind of like an internal rating. We're going to start with the Barb, and this video will have all the classes, so make sure that you check out the hotkeys and the shortcuts in the description underneath. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe, and also leave your comment down below for how you like this video format compared to the previous seasons. Until next time, take care, and I will see you soon. Alright, we have logged in to the first character on the Project Diablo 2 servers, and we are going to start testing the Barb. To explain that in a different way, we have tested the Barb. We have figured out what is the best build. Regarding what I mentioned in the introduction, this video format is going to be a little bit more TLDR because the videos have a tendency to become very, very long when I'm doing these early game tests. So we're going to just go through it right now. We have tested all the Barb builds at level 80 with budget gear to figure out which build is the strongest. Starting at the worst build, in my opinion, at level 80, Obedience, Cryptic Axe, and Lionheart on a Leap Barb. Leap Barb is really not strong enough. It doesn't leech, you don't have survivability. Can't farm cows, you can't farm trav, you can't farm chaos, you can't really do anything. I highly suggest you guys to not start with a Leap Barb. The Leap Barb can get very much stronger later on, but you don't want to be Leap Barb at level 80 when you're starting out farming. I suggest as a bare minimum, if you want to play Leap Barb, you need a elite ethereal crafted weapon, and you need String of Ears for survivability. At level 80, I gave this 2 out of 10 score. The Throw Barb, pretty much the same gear, except, you know, obviously we switched to weapons. You lack amp damage, you're lacking attack speed quite severely because you don't have weapon speed bug anymore. I do not suggest you to play a Throw Barb at level 80. It's just not high enough damage. The survivability is okay because you're ranged, but it's very hard to keep the mercenary alive. As a minimum requirement before you go Throw Barb, I would recommend the unique item, the Lacerator Winged Axe. I gave this a 3 out of 10 as a power score for the Throw Barb. Concentration Barb. Exactly the same gear as the Leap Barb in the first example. We had the Lionheart, we have the Cryptic Axe two-hander. The damage is okay. Very hard to survive because you're standing in the midst of everything like every other melee build. Suggested gear, I would say you want String of Ears, you want Fire Absorption, you want Canopy Frozen, and you want a two-handed Obedience or even better weapon before you go on to that build. In my mind, a 4 out of 10 score for the Concentration Barb in the early game. Warcry Barb. So we used Double Spirit, we used Stealth, we used Lore, and just Resistance Rings, so we had +3 skills, I think it was. Kind of like 50 all res. Low damage, low survivability. Very difficult to play this build early on because you don't have enough damage to put the targets into hit recovery. It's an okay build once you have a little bit of gear, but for the level 80 with almost no plus skills, I would say you should probably stay away from this build. I would suggest that you get 105 FCR, you get at least +8 to 10 skills in your gear, you get some damage reduction, and you also need life and mana after kill to keep it sustained. I give it a 4 out of 10 score at level 80. Frenzy Barb. Exactly the same gear as any other melee build, except, you know, we changed the weapons. Low damage, but the survivability is quite good because we have Decrep from Lawbringer. I do suggest that if you want to play this, that you get some weapons that is a little bit better. Having one Lawbringer with another weapon is probably good enough, because the Decrep helps you with DPS. It also helps you with the survivability because it slows down everything. So go for the Lawbringer, go for a high damage one-handed weapon to pair that with. And I should also suggest maybe get a String of Ears for the DR and the Leech. I gave this a 6 out of 10 for power score on level 80. And then we have arrived at the last build, and the build that I think is the best from the Barb on Season 6 beta, and it is the Whirlwind Barb. It's exactly the same gear as the Leap Barb, the Concentrate Barb, and the Throw Barb, obviously except the weapons. But this is the character that we're going to test, and I'm going to show you guys right now how this character plays. Okay, let's check out the Whirlwind Barb here and what we have. So, let me show you guys the character. He has the mercenary has crafted safety armor, blood helmet, random gloves, crafted blood belt, and crafted blood boots, and a blood weapon. My character has a obedience cryptic axe, lionheart, crafted vampiric, I believe it is, helmet, blood amulet, some random boots with 10 attack speed, some res ring over here, blood belts, blood boots, and a random rare ring again. And the inventory is just life and res charms that you would more likely to have by the time you hit level 80. So this is basically the average character, how it looks after you have beaten the game and you're ready to start farming. So whilst I do firmly believe that the best farming area for a character prior to maps is Travancore, I also want to show you how the characters perform in the cow level, because cows are the units with the highest health in the game. So if you can do cows, even though it might not be the most efficient, it's a fairly safe area because everything is melee range, and it gives you a good indication of how strong your damage is. So let's jump into cows, and then we're gonna do Travancore afterwards, which I think is the area that you should be farming in the early game. Here we go. So on swap we just have some +3 to skills, bow skills. Let me show you guys what I do here. So we do the leap and the debuff. I think we actually got Cow King on the first one here, and we are also amped. But as you can see, we are dealing with this fairly well. Obviously, this is not going to be stupid fast, but it is solid and it's safe because you have really big range on your cryptic axe. You can like stay on the outside and still hit everything. You have the surprise with leaping, debuffing, and then going whirlwind, so you have the battle cry on the units for less physical resistance. So this is a solid build. I wouldn't say that cows is necessarily where you should be spending your time, but as an indication of how high your damage is, how your survivability is, this is a pretty good a good test. So before we go to Trav, let me show you what this build looks like. So the build I have chosen to go is, of course, with the whirlwind. We max whirlwind. 1 point in leap because we don't have teleport. Max polar mastery. We have 1 point in combat reflex and increased speed. In walk rise we have 1 point in find item, very handy early on, particularly for Trav. We have 1 point in battle cry for the physical damage reduction. And we have maxed battle command. And then the remaining points I have put exactly 10 into Iron Skin for the 5% damage reduction, and I put 5 points in natural res for some better all rest. You see, we aren't fully all rest here, but it is close enough. So that is the build. So now let me take you guys over to Trav, and we will see how this character does in Trav. So you're gonna see here that the mercenary will struggle. He doesn't have, for instance, Guardian Angel, something with increased max res. He could use some Fire Absorb maybe. Kira's Guardian would be great for more all res. You see our resistances are not great. So you probably should try to get a little bit better gear on this, particularly this mercenary, before you go here. And if you feel like you can't do Trav with the gear level that you have, with the gear that we have here, do some cows, get some runes, get some charms, get a little bit of currency, and then get yourself some all-res items on this, maybe a little bit of leech, a string of ears maybe, some canopy frozen would be good, and then I'm sure that you will be able. So let's do this Trav run, and we will see how it fares. Obviously, we are not going to be able to battle every single Trav because of things like Conviction. It's going to be very tough to handle. So sometimes you do have to abort your Trav run. That is just the way it is. So you see the Mercenary there, when everything is stacked up, he dies pretty quickly. But because of our high damage weapon and our Leech, we are completely fine in clearing Travancore with this character. And now you swap over to your Battlecry, and it's time to hork these targets right here for some extra high runes and some extra uniques. So TLDR on this build, it is absolutely capable of farming Trav. I do suggest to try and make your Mercenary a little bit stronger, damage reduction gear. Maybe you can give him a safety helmet, max damage or max resistance gear, and you should be fairly safe with this character in Trav. As a total, I give this character a 7 out of 10 for power score for the Whirlwind Barb at level 80. Thank you guys for watching the Barb. We are going to be back with another character in just a few seconds. Alright, we are back with the Necromancer part of this video. We have gone through a lot of the Necromancer builds, and I will give you guys my TLDR as we are making this video a little bit differently than we have done before. Please leave comments underneath in how you like this format compared to what we have had before. So I have ranked the starter builds. So this is level 80. This is power at level 80 for the Necromancer. Must not be confused with the power of these builds at the end game, because that's going to be very different. But at level 80, if you do choose to play Necromancer, these are the power rankings that I have come up with. So for Dark Pact in last place, it's pretty decent on Chaos, but it's unsuitable for Trav and it's unsuitable for Chaos because you can't get enough density and the damage is just lackluster. The playstyle is also not amazing in Chaos because you cast a lot. It's probably a build that's going to get a lot stronger when you get some plus skills. Would not recommend this for level 80. I give a power ranking of 5 out of 10 for level 80. Poison Nova, pretty similar to Dark Pact, a little bit better. Good damage, good pack damage in the cow level. Good survivability. You're ranged. You have a lot of abilities to stay. You know, use Blood Warp. You have Shield. All those things, and it's just melee units, so it's very strong. For Trav and Chaos, you do need better gear. It is simply not a boss killer, and you need higher damage. You need a better Mercenary if you want to do Trav consistently. I give it a 6 out of 10 for this build. Summon Elemental Necromancer, so this is with Skeletal Mages, Act 3 Mercenary, and Elemental Revives. It's amazing in the cow level, it's great in Trav, and it's not particularly desired in Chaos. Immunities is a problem, and the way you get there with Blood Warp, low-level Blood Warp, is pretty slow, so stay away from Chaos. But for Chaos and Trav, it's great. I give this a 6.5 out of 10. Corpse Explosion, my favorite build. I think it's great in Chaos, it's great in Trav. It's mediocre to weak in Chaos, so I would probably stay away from that until you can get like 5 or 6 plus skills. But before that, stick to Trav and Chaos. That Corpse Explosion is going to carry. You're going to find high runes like crazy. 7 out of 10 for that build. And then we have the winner, at least in my opinion, of the strongest level 80 budget build for Necromancer. It is the Teeth Bone Spear that has been revamped for this Season 6. Good damage, good survivability in all areas, solid boss damage for Diablo. It is a little bit janky with the long teleport cooldown. It does slow you down a bit. You can consider putting a couple of extra points into Blood Warp if that is your thing. But as I'm showing you now, this is a really, really solid build. For me, this is an 8 out of 10. And we're going to take a couple of minutes and I'm going to show you how this build plays in these 3 areas. Alright. So this is the Poison and Bone, Bone Spear Teeth Necromancer. we have set that up. I'm going to just jump into this cow level right here. We're using a Battle Orders mercenary over here with Lawbringer and some random crafted gear that we have. So we're just going to see. So we ran into some elites immediately here. That is obviously not ideal. But you can see that this guy, in combination with the mercenary, that does stay alive. And these clay golems to soak up damage is pretty strong. Obviously, killing elites is gonna take a minute. But for regular monsters, as you can see here, this is fairly strong. This is like a 8 to 10 hour playtime. You should be able to be at this gear level here. There's also elites and minions inside this pack, so it's a pretty tough little cow spawn here. But we are dealing with it, as you can see. Let's reposition. So the mercenary. Well, I was about to say let's reposition so the mercenary doesn't die, but we ran out of mana. But yeah, you can see here we can deal with this pretty easily. It's not the area where this character shines, but I still feel like it was a good idea to show you that you can deal with the cow level if you are interested in that. So let me go and pick up the mercenary, and we will jump over to Trav, which I think is where this character is gonna do pretty decently. And then at the end, we're gonna do Chaos, where this guy will be amazing. Alright, we are in Trav. It's a little bit dependent on how this spawns here. You are gonna have to be a little critical as to which of these Travs you can do. Because as you can see here, we are getting a little bit overrun. That is to be expected sometimes. Because of the fact that you saw we have units in the corner. Can't really do anything about them. Sometimes you're gonna just have to either leave the game or just skip it for that run, while you go towards Chaos instead, for instance. But as you can see, the damage we're doing here to these elites, there's nothing wrong with this damage. Even without the mercenary, this is working out okay with a double golem to tank up the damage here. So we can just kill all these elites. If I can target him, that would be great. And yes, it's not the fastest Trav you have seen in your life, but as a combined character, solid in cows, Trav is doable. And let's go rest the mercenary. And we're gonna do Chaos. Okay, we are at the entrance of Chaos, and this is what I want to show you. The benefit of this character here in Chaos is the fact that he has no immunities to worry about. So this guy, as you can see here on the damage, he's just... It doesn't matter what's in front. Yeah, your damage is not one-shotting, but this is also intended to be day one farming. Day one farming in Chaos, you can choose if you want to kill these. I do probably recommend it to do. They give a lot of experience, and they are super unique, or they are unique monsters. Magic Find is gonna be pretty solid on those. Or you can skip this if you want to be more boss farming centric, and you go straight for the seals. It's optional. There is a little bit of a risk, particularly if you're playing hardcore, of course, but it's absolutely doable. And as you can see, even though the damage is not one-shotting, we don't have any immunities here to worry about, so our damage is actually quite efficient. Let me show you one more thing. Do it after this boss right here. If we go down here, this is our Teeth spell. So Teeth is where this build is gonna be later on. It's gonna be very, very strong, but at this level of gear and FCR that we have, I do strongly recommend you to prioritize the Bone Spear spell. It is a higher DPS output. So let's come back when it's time to kill Diablo. Alright, we are ready to kill Diablo here. So this is the single target damage showcase for this build. We are going to be using Bone Spirit. It is the higher damage of the abilities that you have for single target. So we're going to try to stand here. And with 75 FCR that we are running, this being a build that you can look to have after, I would say, after 8 to 10 hours of gameplay. Day number 1, level 80, completely budget gear. I think this is a pretty solid boss damage right here. You're gonna be hard pressed to find a character that does better boss damage than what we just did on this character. So let me take you a couple of minutes and show you the gear and the build that we are working with. So the mercenary has a safety armor and helmet craft. He's using random gloves with 20 attack speed. We have a random crafted blood belt for some life leech and the same random crafted blood boots for this. He's also using a Lawbringer for decrep and the Sanctuary Aura for more magic damage. Character, we have a +2 to Bone Spear. White wand. You can shop this from Drognan in Act 2 on normal, and we have made white. We have stealth, lore, random 7 FCR amulet, rhyme for the cannot be frozen and all res, random rare boots with 2 reses. We have a res ring, another res ring, caster crafted belt, caster crafted gloves, and we have random charms that you would be likely to have once you have played through the game. So as you can see, there is nothing like optimized with the stuff that we have. It's just what you would be likely to sit with once you have beaten Baal on Hell. We actually just dinged. I started this guide at level 80, but there was a lot of builds to test, so we actually did hit level 81 before we finished. But yes, level 80 is what this build is intended to showcase. So the build was, of course, the Poison and Bone Necro with Bone Spirit, Bone Spear, Teeth, and Bone Armor maxed. We have nothing in curses, as there is no need for that at this point. You could potentially consider doing something with curses later on. On summoning, we have 5 points in Golem Mastery for the double Golem. As you can see, we have 2 Golems up here. And then we have 1 in Blood Warp, and the rest of the points we dumped in Clay Golem. So, yeah. This is, in my mind, considering that we are decent at Chaos, we're decent at Trav, and we are strong in Chaos, for me, the Poison and Bone Spear Teeth Necromancer is the strongest starting build at level 80 for Necromancer in PD2 Season 6. I hope you enjoyed this Necromancer guide, and we'll be back with another character in just a couple of seconds. So here we are with the next build, or the next character. It's going to be the Paladin character, and these are the builds that we have tested. And we're back with the TLDR. Of course, I'm going to show you the best build towards the end, but this is what I have experienced so far. So we started with a Oradin Zealadin, a Holy Fire Zealer, and I think I need to mention that I think that this is going to play out for any type of Oradin that you want to play early on. This is pretty much going to be the experience that you have. Damage was very low. It struggles with survivability. It's not really intended for budget or low-level play. Remember, we are at level 80 with almost no gear. It's like a day 1, day 2 kind of builds we're doing here. The gear across all the characters is very similar. 1 Lemon, 1 Foul Rune. That's it. The rest is just super low-level stuff. If you want to play this build, or any of the Aura builds, I would recommend at least +10 skills. Moderate pierce for the element that you're doing. You also need some damage reduction and life and mana after kill for sustain. It's not intended for budget play at all. In my mind, 2 out of 10 for the Holy Freeze Zealer at level 80. Smite, pretty much the same thing. Different play style though. Damage is low, struggles with survivability. The knockback is super annoying. I don't recommend to play Smite at a budget low level for farming anyway. You can do it for Ubers and stuff because it's going to be very strong on single target. But for packs, it is not suitable for low-level budget play at level 80. I recommend that you get at least an elite shield base and about 60% crushing blow before you even attempt this build as a normal farming build. I gave it a 2 out of 10 at level 80 for the Smite. Next, Vengeance. Vengeance is decent damage in cows, is decent in trap. Survivability is a bit rough because you don't leech very much. I recommend to not play this build until you have 4 to 5 skills. You do have some damage reduction. Maybe Sankicur's Fall Shield will help ignore target's defense, stuff like that. Voice of Reason is good with Canopy Frozen. And maybe a Dwarf Star for Fire Absorb. I gave this a 5 out of 10 at level 80. Fist of Heavens, the favorite build of mine from the Paladin. It's pretty low damage, and survivability for the Mercenary is hard in cows and trab. It's really good for chaos. It's very good for chaos. I would recommend that if you want to transition into this build, you have 6 to 7 plus skills for cows and trab, and maybe some fire absorb gear, you know, like a Dwarf Star, or you give your Mercenary some maximum resistances. Damage reduction like a String of Ears is also good for the Mercenary. I gave this a 6 out of 10 at level 80. And the strongest build for me that is surprising is the Hammerdin. So the Hammerdin has made a comeback in PD2 for Season 6, and it is actually performing really well, even at a budget. So I'm going to show you guys how this plays, and then I'm going to show you the gear and the build afterwards. Okay, we have a cow level open. Let's quickly run into the cow level and see what we can do. So this is with champions, as you can see. Damage is really, really good. The funny thing with this build is that the concentration aura actually helps the Mercenary quite a bit. The Mercenary gets a lot of damage from your aura. And your semi-ranged build, of course, if you like stagger your cast a little bit, you can stay pretty safe from these cows. The Mercenary is leeching a lot because he has really high damage. The Sanctuary aura is completely unaffected on this character. We're not even using Sanctuary aura. So there's no reason to play Sanctuary aura on this character. So this is really freaking good. For a day 1 farming build, this is very, very strong. And not to mention, one of the most important things, I think, is that the Mercenary becomes so strong. Because of the incredible damage that your Mercenary will do, your Mercenary will stay alive more from his leech. So let's test out Travancore. Alright, time to test Trav. It's not... You won't be able to do every single Trav, because it is kind of Monka-S at times with the auras. You can see here there is Fanaticism aura, Mercenary got deleted there. That's going to happen. I'm not going to lie to you guys, that is going to happen. You should also be careful which of these Travs you choose to do, because there can be Conviction, there can be Fanaticism, like you see here. So you should check and you should do Trav when you are when you're able, but also don't be stubborn about it, particularly if you're playing hardcore. As you can see, we could deal with this even if the Mercenary died. It's a really, really solid build across the board. But don't take any unnecessary risk if you are playing hardcore. And also, as I have mentioned before, for other builds, getting some survivability gear on the Mercenary will be huge, so that he can possibly tank this for you. Let's test Chaos. Alright, start of Chaos. Pretty much straightforward. There isn't really much to say here. Damage is going to be solid. You can choose if you want to play Joust or not. I have chosen not to play Joust because I am playing hardcore. So I would do that later on when I have better gear. But for the low level, I would not play Joust on hardcore. But that is up to you. You can always do that. So as you can see, this build deals with all this stuff here pretty well. Mercenary stays alive, not really having any problems. So we're gonna be back in a couple of seconds here with the Diablo kill, and I will show you the boss damage. Okay, time to test out boss damage. It's time for Diablo here. So on a day 1 build, this is not bad. Mercenary did get slapped because I didn't pay attention. That happens. But on a day 1 build, I think that this damage is very, very solid. There we go. And we even got a... the fuck? Well, if you're running on Act 5 Mercenary, he got a little stronger right now. So yeah, concluding on this character, for me, can do all 3 areas that is important to do in the early farm. So cows, traps, and chaos. You know, the highest priority is Tramical, second highest is chaos, and then the third priority, if you can't do the others, is the cow level. This character is solid damage in all of them. Good survivability. Buffs the mercenary, so the mercenary can actually stay alive better when you're farming packs because of the concentration aura. All in all, I gave this character a 8 out of 10 at level 80. So let's quickly jump up to town here and resurrect my mercenary. I hope I have enough gold. I do. And we will take a quick look at the gear and the build that we have been running so you guys can see what we have been working with here. So we have a exceptional insight, so this is a Bector Corbin, not a elite base. Crafted safety helmet, safety armor, some random gloves with 20 attack speed, blood belt, and blood boots crafted for the mercenary. For me, I have nothing on swap. On main, I have 2 spirits. I have a 7 FCR, no skill amulet. I have a lore. I have a smoke. Random crafted the FCR gloves, belt, and some rare boots with double res. 1 10 FCR ring with a little bit of res on it. A little bit of res here, and the inventory is just random charms that you are likely to have at completion of the game. So nothing exceptionally good down here. No plus skills, no nothing like that. Let's take a look at the build. In combat skills, I have 1 point in Holy Shield, max Blessed Hammer, of course, max Blessed Aim, max Concentration, max Vigor, 1 point in Salvation, and then I dump the rest of the points in Holy Shield. You can pick Joust if you want to do that. Remember, I am tailoring my characters for hardcore. You can also go with an Act 5 Mercenary if you would rather have the Battle Orders effect instead of the damage reduction from Defiance. That is all up to you. I also chose this Mercenary because of the Meditation aura on Insight and the, in general, very high damage on this polearm compared to an Act 5. So that's the build. I hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to be back in a couple of seconds with the next character. Alright, here we are with the Druid part of this beta early game test video. Same premise as before, very minimum gear, level 80, and we're going to check which builds are the strongest. So we start out with Rabies. Rabies, and I think this is going to echo the Fury build as well, even though we didn't test it, as the same problems. Low damage, terrible survivability. Absolutely not suited for level 80 super budget. If you intend to play this build, as a minimum, get yourself a Plague Bearer, get yourself a Pus Spitter Act 1 Mercenary, and I also highly suggest getting String of Ears for survivability. This is a 3 out of 10. Really poor build for level 80 budget gear. Next build we tested was with the Wind Druid. This is standard Wind Druid, and it was pretty decent in Chaos. Kind of on the weaker side in Trav, but then very strong in the Chaos. Would greatly benefit from a better mercenary survivability, as the mercenary did struggle quite a bit. I gave this a 6 out of 10 overall for the Wind Druid. The Fire Druid, very strong in Chaos again, decent in Trav, and quite a bit slower in Chaos. It's natural, there's a lot of fire immunes in Chaos, and the boss damage was pretty low. Because it is a lot stronger in Chaos, or in Trav and in Chaos, this also receives a 6 out of 10. Surprisingly, Shockwave Bear Druid. Very, very good in Chaos. Super strong. Never played this build before. It was a fun build. It was a very surprisingly strong build. It stuns everything, helps keeping the Mercenary alive. Mercenary with Decrep, of course, from Lawbringer. This is going to be a crazy strong build if you get like 6, 7, 8 plus skills. Trav is a little bit slower, but still a solid place. Strong in Chaos, but the boss damage is absolutely horrendous. I don't even know how to boost the boss damage of this build. It is really bad. My suggestion is actually just to stay away from Chaos. Do Trav and do Chaos. It's gonna be better overall. If you are hellbent to do Chaos, I think a good way of getting there is get an amp damage weapon for your Act 5 mercenary, and also give him some crushing blow, maybe a G-phase, maybe some crafted gloves, something like this. 6.5 out of 10 for this build. And then we have arrived at the build that I think performed the strongest at level 80 for the Druid, and it is the Summon Druid. It was mediocre in Chaos, but not because it couldn't do it. It's just that the damage from summons is kind of on the slower side. It's very, very safe. Super strong in Trav because you're so safe. You can gust in behind everything and have like a cone of units in front of you, and it will just wave kill everything. Also very strong in Chaos. So I'm going to show you guys how the Summon Druid plays, and then I will go through the build and the gear afterwards. Okay, we have a car portal open. Shield on, let's go. So we stomp, and here we go. So we have to make sure that we keep the distance between ourselves and the cows. And as you can clearly see, this is not the fastest build at killing at all. This was an elite pack though. But the benefit of this build is that it can deal with everything. There's literally nothing stopping this build. You will get through any target that you see with this build. Bigger pull here. Here we go. Take advantage of that bear splash damage. $15 and $25. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, absolutely. This build is super live lord. Oh! Ah, there we go. So as you see, guys, we have just proven which is the best build in the entirety of Project Diablo 2 Season 6. If you don't play Summon Druid in Season 6, you have small PP. Let's do a pretty solid pull here. Let's do a big pull. There we go. Let's run away. Stomp. There we go. That's a pretty solid pull, taking advantage of the splash damage from the bears. Yeah, there is nothing that stops this character, even though it's not the fastest. It's a very solid character for cows. I think individually I would give this build maybe a 5 or a 6 in the cow level, but I'm gonna show you right now why this build gets such a high score from me. Travancore is, as you know, the premier place to farm if you wanna start out generating currency. And this is why this build is so strong. Take a look at this, guys. We just teleport in. It just tanks everything. I'm super safe behind everything here. Nothing to worry about. And everything just dies. So the reason this build gets such a strong score is exactly this right here. It can deal with everything with no gear. Absolutely no gear on this character whatsoever. And we just killed Trav in about, I don't know, 15 seconds? 15-20 seconds. Council is dead. So this area right here is where this build will shine. It's very, very strong. There is a drawback to repeatedly farming Trav that I want to mention, and it's the fact that you need to summon all these creatures. You see these creatures that we're summoning. It takes quite a while. I would think about 6 to 7 seconds, maybe even more, to summon all these creatures, and that adds right on top of your run time. So if you're just doing one area, a large percentage of your runtime will just be summoning these creatures. It's a little bit inefficient. So I do suggest you, if you want to play this Druid, farm more areas. If you think cows are too slow, you can add, for instance, Pindleskin, you can add Eldritch and Shank, or other areas that are close to a waypoint. So make sure you check that out, and we're going to be jumping over to Chaos, and I'm going to show you how this character does there. Okay, so we have arrived in Chaos. We are fully cursed, as you can see here, but that doesn't matter. We just keep summoning our ravens and moving forward. We try to gust stomp when we can, like we have a pack right here, so we gust stomp close to that. Get these creatures out as soon as possible. We have some minions here as well, so we want to put our own creatures forward. They just walk forward, kill everything. It's like a wave of death. Just make sure to always keep your creatures to the maximum amount of summons that is allowed. And don't be afraid to use Gust. You can always Gust and then sidestep to not take any damage. So even if we are pretty aggressive here with our Gusting, it will be just fine. I'm gonna be back in 2 seconds, and then I will show you guys the boss damage on Diablo. Alright, time for Diablo. Let me show you guys the boss damage of this build right here. So you're hoping here that your that your mercenary will not get targeted, so that he can proc decrep on the boss. I have no idea why I'm getting hit down here, but apparently the servers believe that I'm standing somewhere I'm not. So the boss damage is quite fine. I mean, for day 1, this is super solid. It's not as fast as the Fire Druid, or as the Wind Druid, excuse me. But this is a really, really strong character overall for the level 80 early game. I gave this character a 6 out of 10. So it is the strongest build at level 80 with the gear that we have available to us. And let me show you guys what that looks like. We only have some attack speed gear here on the gloves, 20 attack speed. We have some crafted blood belt, blood boots. We have safety armor. We found a vamp case right now. We did run a vampiric helmet before that, but we just found a vamp case, so that's a pretty crazy upgrade there with the damage reduction and the life leech. And we have a Lawbringer for the Decrepify proc over here. Character is using nothing on swap. Spirit, Rhyme, 7 FCR amulet with no skills, Lore, Smoke, FCR crafted gloves, FCR crafted belt, some random boots with 2 resistances, 1 res ring and 1 FCR ring, and we have the inventory. It's just random small charms that you would be likely to have at this level. So this is not very strong gear at all, and he just completely plows through the content. Very, very, very strong build for this very early level. We did actually ding. We were level 80, but we got level 81 during the testing phase. So the build is as follows. I have 1 point in Gust and Cyclone Armor. I have nothing in Shape. Maxed all the summons, 1 in each of the creepers. And then I have put all my points in Oak Sage. This build, you can choose Oak Sage or you can choose Hearted Wolverine. It's DPS versus health. It's all up to you. I like to play Oak Sage early on because I'm playing hardcore. If you are playing softcore or you are very experienced with this build, maybe you can just go Hearted Wolverine and have a little bit more damage. Also, important to note that we are using the... well, it doesn't actually say here, but this is the Battle Orders version of the Act 5 Mercenary. If you want to min-max your DPS, go with the Might Aura Mercenary, and your summons will have a little bit more damage. So as I said, 7 out of 10. Very, very strong build for the Druid. Safe, can deal with all the top areas, and I hope that you will check out this build. We're going to be back in a couple of seconds with the next character. So here we are with the next character. It is the Assassin. We have tested out 5, 6 builds on this character, and so far the Assassin is quite weak across the board in the early game. I do think that this character could use a little bit of help in the early game, but that's a discussion for a different day. Let's go through the builds real quick, and then I will showcase the build that I think did perform the best for me at this level 80 budget test that we did. So let's start with Kixin. Kixin has a lot of trouble. It's a melee character, it's based on attack speed, it's tanking everything, it's really not something that you want to start with. It's very gear dependent, it's low damage, the survivability is terrible. I gave this a 2 out of 10. This was borderline unplayable at level 80 with, you know, really, really bad gear. I would highly recommend you to stay away from the Kixin at this level. If you want to play Kixin later, that's probably a fine build, and that goes for many of these builds, but play something different and then transition into Kixin when you are ready to do that. Phoenix Strike, decent damage, but also struggles with survivability. It kind of echoes most of the melee builds, because you are standing in melee range and doing damage. It's hard to keep yourself sustained with budget gear. If you want to play Phoenix Strike, I recommend you to at least have Bartox with a Shale Rune in it, because you need that for the attack speed. And I would say like 30 plus damage reduction. And you also need some kind of leech, either mana per kill or mana steal. Life per kill to keep yourself sustained. I give this a 4 out of 10 overall at level 80. Bladezin, low damage. It could work all right with a two-hander obedience. We can use that. I kind of don't like to drop the shield on hardcore, but if you are comfortable with doing that, then you can check out this build. The damage was substantially better with a two-hander. It needs more physical damage, in my opinion. Deadly Strike, Leech, Crushing Blow, Attack Speed to get that damage up and going. Same as the Phoenix Strike, I will give this build a 4 out of 10 at level 80 with crap gear. Mind Blast. Mind Blast performs reasonably. Very, very reliant on plus skills. So any type of plus skill you can get for Mind Blast is going to be very important. It's alright for cows, very safe, everything stuns, it's ranged. The Lawbringer Mercenary really comes into play because it's physical damage, and the Decrep really helps you both not taking damage and doing more damage to the creatures. So I would recommend 6 to 8 plus skills, and try your best to get to 102 FCR to get that 102 break point. It's gonna really, really increase your DPS output. I gave this a 5 out of 10 at level 80. And then we have arrived at the traps. So both the trap builds, so that's lightning traps and fire traps, go under the same kind of category here, or the same kind of gradient. They receive the same score. So it is a little bit tough to play Assassin because you don't really have the ability to play too many areas, because you can't do trap, you can't do chaos. There's too many lightning immunes, too many fire immunes. It's not really efficient. So what I suggest is that you do cows. Both Lightning Sentry and Wake of Fire does reasonably well in cows, and particularly the Death Sentry, will carry you if you herd together a big flock and you wait for a couple of corpses and then you put down your Death Sentries. You must be a little bit more patient with the Death Sentry than before, because they have nerfed the damage of Death Sentry a little bit. So make sure that you have like 3 or 4 corpses before you spam out your Death Sentries, and you're going to be doing well in the cow level. You can do Arcane as lightning traps if you feel that cows is too dangerous or it's too difficult. And you can also do Stony Tombs with the Fire Assassin if the same reason, if you think that cows are too dangerous. But I'm going to show you how this plays in these in this area, in the cows, and you can check out for yourself what you think about the build. So here we are on the Trapsin. I have built a Wake of Fire Assassin because that's my that's the one that I like. I prefer that one over the Lightning Trapper. We have a cow map over here, or a cow level over here. And we are gonna jump in and take a look at it. We do play Fade. I'm gonna show you the gear and the build after I show you how we do this. So we're kind of unlucky here though, spawning right next to the king, but let's try to dodge away from that. So we kind of want to herd together and put the traps far away, so the cone of attack hits a lot of different things. We're kind of unlucky with this map right here. Let's see if we can get some corpses. Getting a little bit overrun. We don't have a safe spot right now. Okay, here we go. So as soon as you get these 3 or 4 corpses, you can see that the damage is pretty crazy from the Death Sentry. So let's quickly go and pick up the Mercenary. You are going to lose the Mercenary from time to time, so it's kind of nice that you guys see how that plays out. So let's move on to a bigger pull. Put them away like this. Wait for the corpse. There we go. And it just cleans up. As soon as you have 3, 4 corpses, it just wrecks house. And you can move on to the next pack. I do feel like the assassin isn't as fast as some other characters, but we do the best we can. So we put the traps a bit away, run away for saving the Mercenary, spam out, get a couple of corpses, and blow it up. There we go. So again, you see here the elite with enchanted here does kill the Mercenary from time to time. It is going to happen, so might as well include that in the showcase here, because at this gear that we have, there is no way around that. It is going to happen from time to time. So the most important thing when you're playing the Trapsin is to take advantage of Death Sentry. So put out all of these traps. As soon as you get a couple of corpses, get the Death Sentry down, and it just clears house like this. Very important that you are patient with placing down your Death Sentry. It's not like before, where you could start spamming them out at 1 corpse. That's not good enough anymore. You gotta be having, I would say, 3 to 4 corpses. And there we are. Let's see if we can pull another big pack here. Yeah, the AoE of the Death Sentry just slaps everything down. So in the cow level, then it's going to be pretty much the same for the Lightning Trapper. They're very, very similar. I just prefer the Wake of Fire. So the playstyle is the same. Just wait for 3 or 4 corpses, herd them together, so you have a lot of cows to take advantage of Death Sentry. And then I think you will be doing just fine. All right, there we are. So that's pretty good. It's not the fastest build, but it is pretty solid. And as I mentioned in the introduction for this class, I don't think there really is any other area that you can realistically farm. Thinking of Trav and Chaos, which is, you know, Chaos, Trav, Chaos. Those are the trifecta of early farming areas that you really want to do. So this is the best option that you are able to do with this character. If this is too tough for you, Arcane with Lightning and the Stony Tombs with Fire. So let's take a look at what gear we have. We have random safety crafts on the Mercenary, just a head and a armor. Random 20 attack speed gloves with not much else. We have 2 blood crafts, belt and boots, and we have an insight in an exceptional base, not even elite base here. Character, I have nothing on swap. We are using treachery. We have rhyme, random caster amulet. We have lore, random boots or gloves with some res. Same with boots. FCR crafted belt, some rings with some res on here, and we have a caster claw craft right here. Inventory is basically just life and res that you would be likely to have at this level. So let's check out the build. It's very, very standard. We have nothing in martial arts. Shadow Disciplines, we have Fade that we are playing. So the build is max everything in the middle and then dump the rest in Fade for survivability. So that's the Assassin build. It's a build that is reasonably strong. I gave it a 6 out of 10 for the cow level. And this build is also scaling really, really well at endgame. So I hope you will check it out. It is a very, very cool build. I played this solo to 99 in Season 2. So I have played this build quite a bit. We're going to be back in a couple of seconds with the next class. Time to check out the Sorceress. Luckily, the Sorceress will pretty much use the same gear across the board at this level. So we have been able to test a lot of builds because they, you know, she's a caster. She uses the same items no matter the build. So we have tested Blizzard, Ice Barrage, Frozen Orb, Meteor, Combustion, Hydra, Nova, Chain Lightning, and Charge Bolt. The result is quite conclusive. Let's start with the worst. So any of the lightning builds are completely off the table. They are absolutely terrible. I give all of them a 2 out of 10. Charge Bolt, Chain Lightning, Nova, they are not... Don't touch lightning if you want to play this Sorceress in the early game. If you have a fetish and you are masochistic, you can potentially farm Arcane Sanctuary. That's the only thing you can do. Everything else is completely off the table. You can't do cows, you can't do trav, you can't do chaos, you can't do any boss farming. Stay away from the lightning sorceress until you have solid gear. Next is the fire sorceress. So within fire we include meteor fireball, combustion fireball, and hydra. Very much similar to the lightning builds. Lack of crowd control, damage too low, very undesired for level 80 for bad gear, like I'm going to show you. So it's the same thing as the lightning build. If you do at any cost want to play fire, you have basically Andariel and Stony Tombs. That's it. My suggestion is to stay away from fire until you have better gear so you can actually start doing something. So from the cold builds, we tested Blizzard, Ice Barrage, and Frozen Orb. Personally, I think that Blizzard was the worst of the three. Frozen Orb was the second, and the build that performed the best of the cold builds was the Ice Barrage build. I'm going to show you how that build plays in Chaos and in Chaos. Trav, it's a little janky. You can make it work, but if you want to wait until you have, say, 6 to 8 plus skills, Maybe some damage reduction and some survivability items, maybe call to arms to make sure that you don't get slapped in the face, because we are playing hardcore after all. I would probably stay away from Trav until you have a little bit better gear. So you have Chaos, you have Chaos, and you have Mephisto. Based on your skill with the character, based on the gear that you have, and of course the mode you play on. I know that a lot of people that play softcore do watch these builds because it is very similar. But for now, I'm going to show you Chaos and I'm going to show you Chaos. Mephisto is pretty straightforward, so I don't really feel like I need to show you that. But let's jump into this Barrage Sorceress, and you can judge for yourself. Alright, we have opened a cow level. We have not been in there, so it can be quite surprising. As you can see, I am using the Act 3 Mercenary. I'm personally not a fan of this Mercenary, but for the purposes of this video, I chose to take this Act 3 Mercenary. I think the Act 2 Mercenary will work just as fine. But let's do some gameplay, and then I will show you the gear and the build towards the end of the video. I'll try to stay away from the Cow King for now. Get that mercenary onto your side. These champions early on are kind of annoying. But it is what it is. The build is working quite well. Obviously we have pretty bad gear on this character, so it's not going to be an insane clear speed. We did almost get slapped by another champion pack, but that's okay. And an elite pack. Let me save the mercenary. You're going to have to always be taking care of this mercenary because he has no ability to leech. So that's one of the reasons why I don't really like this mercenary very much, because he can't really take care of himself. You have to babysit him all the time. But yeah, this is pretty much what you're gonna see in Chaos. You can farm this on day one. Get yourself through the game, get a spirit, get a lore, and you're gonna be exactly where we are right now. So that's pretty much it for the Chaos. I don't really feel like I need to show you too much more about this. We killed some champions, we killed some elites. Bunch of loot, charms, potential to be good, Wordstone shards, that's clear currency, gold for gambling, tons of bases, so you can do pretty well with the combustion sorceress, no, not combustion, excuse me, with the Ice Barrage Sorceress here in the cow level on day number 1 when you are farming. So let's come back with some footage from Chaos Sanctuary. Alright, we're at the entrance of Chaos, take 2, because I forgot to change my mercenary on the first take. Shit happens. But yeah, if you want to do Chaos, obviously, since there are cold immunes down here, you would need to change your mercenary to a Act 2 mercenary. This is my preferred mercenary anyway, so for me, this would be the way to go. And we can just plow through everything here, no greater problems with this. Mercenary will deal with these cold immunes. And as you can see, our area damage is pretty decent. Obviously you need to babysit your mercenary because he still isn't very strong, but he can deal with these things one by one if you want to farm this area. It's very good for a combination of runes and items down here. So as you can see, mercenary can deal with these even champions, no problem. I will be back with in a couple of seconds, and I will show you the DPS on the Diablo kill. Alright, so we have cleared Chaos, and I'm going to show you guys the damage on Diablo. Let's go. So it's all about keeping your mercenary alive here. Probably try to position yourself so you don't... there we go, that's better. You gotta hit with all the icicles in Ice Barrage to increase your shotgun damage. So the damage here is pretty decent. Mercenary stayed alive. I stayed alive. All in all, not a bad day's work. 3 to Shadowmaster. Nope, we don't want that. So that was the Ice Barrage Sorceress, in my opinion, the strongest Sorceress build at level 80. Let me show you guys what we have to work with here. So we have a exceptional quality insight in a Beck the Corbin. We have safety helmet, safety armor craft. We have a random 20 attack speed gloves, we have a blood belt, and we have blood boots. Character is using nothing on swap. We have a spirit, we have a smoke, we have rhyme, lore, random FCR amulet, same with gloves and belt. But double res boots, and we have some resistances on these two rings, one with FCR here to reach that 63 FCR breakpoint. Inventory is just random life and res charms that you would be likely to have by the time you finish the game on Hell mode. If you do lack resistances before you start Hell, I suggest to do a few Nightmare Cow runs to sort out your resistances. The build is also really straightforward. We have 1 teleport, 1 talc, 1 static field for now. I take 1 in warmth, and then in cold we have 1 in shiver armor, and we max ice barrage with synergies, and then I dump the rest of the points in static for more range. So no matter which sorceress build you are going to play in the end game, I suggest you to play ice barrage at level 80 when you have only +2 skills, as you can see from the gear that we have. So check out the Sorceress, and we're going to be back in a few seconds with the last of the builds. We have arrived at the final class, and it is the Amazon, and we have tested 5-6 different builds here. We're going to take them from one tier to the next, I guess. Let's start with javelins. So both lightning and poison javs. They seem a little weaker than they did in previous season. It might not be the case because I haven't seen any raw numbers, but it feels a little clunkier to play. Lightning is a little stronger than poison, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend to play the javelins unless you have, I would say, 6 to 8 plus skills. And also that you're able to be at the 53 IAS breakpoint. I did give both these builds about a 4 out of 10 at level 80 for the Javazons. So if you do want to play Javazon, you might need to farm a different area, maybe Arcane Sanctuary, something with lower health to get a little bit more plus skills before you can go on to Chaos and Chaos. Obviously, both Trav and Chaos will be tough because there's immunities there. So you're pretty much stuck in Chaos with these two builds. So having a lot of plus skills is good for your farm speed. Over to the bow. We had tested 3 different bow builds. So by order of terribleness, let's start with Immolation Arrow. We tried Immolation Arrow, Explosive Arrow, that kind of build. Absolutely no bueno. Low damage, no safety from crowd control. Not enough buffs in your summons to really make a difference. I would absolutely recommend to stay away from this build. I don't even know if it's a build in the end game, but there was a bunch of people in the chat here that wanted to see this build, so we just slapped one together. Then we did the Ice Maiden, so that's the Cold Arrow build. The damage is a bit low, but it's very safe. And then when you can stun everything, you get the damage from your Valkyries, from your Mercenary. We did have a Lawbringer Mercenary with a Decrep, so that helped. We ran a Might Mercenary with Decrep, so that helped. We chose to do Treachery over Peace for the attack speed. That might not have been the correct choice, but still I think this build is lacking a little bit in the beginning to be good. You need a few plus skills on the Ice Maiden combined with some attack speed for this build to start getting really good. And then the best build to me, surprisingly, is actually the Summon Strafe build, a hybrid build that we have touched upon a little bit before. I played it in the Crafter League, the one that was between or at the end of Season 4. So we played a similar build to that. So basically this is a build that goes very heavily into Valkyries and decoys, and then you also use the Peace rune word to get another Valkyrie. So I'm going to show you guys how the playstyle looks. It is very similar to Summon Necro, Summon Druid. It's very, very strong early game, so let's take a look at it right now. Okay, here we have it. Cow level open. We have summoned our 3 Valkyries. And let's go take a look what happens here. Get those decoys out. As you can see, we don't have amplified damage on the bow here. That's by design. We're using the Act 5 mercenary to use decrep. Ooh, Tomb 1. Okay. Finding some stuff here. That might be actually our... we could be able to sell this to a Necromancer and trade that for a Witch Wild String to get our amplified damage right off the bat in our first cow run. But this is how it plays. It plays pretty much the same as any other summon build. Just make sure that your decoys and your Valkyries are summoned at all times, and then leech back the mana you have spent with Strafe and proc amplified damage when you have amplified damage available to you. So that is the first thing you gotta sort out with this build. Once you have arrived at this place, get a source of amplified damage. So you can use a Witch Wild String, you can use a Atma Scarab Amulet. There's a few ways to get amplified damage. You can even use a Lacerator or a Vile Husk on an Act 5 mercenary if you're desperate. There's multiple ways of doing that. So it's a very cool build. It is a summon build, doesn't fit for everyone. I will concede that, but it's a pretty strong build. As you can see, we can do cows here very safely. Even on hardcore, we just run in, get out our decoys, and just supply with damage in the back here, and everything just dies. It's not the fastest build, but this early, we are level 80. This is designed for being a day 1 or a late day 1 or an early day 2 build, where you can go farming just when you have beaten the game. That's the idea behind this this video right here. So I don't feel like I need to show you more of the cows. Let's take a look at Travancore. Okay, we have arrived in Trav. Let's run over here, see what we can do. This should be fairly straightforward. Hopefully I can get inside here. Yes, we can. Just run to this corner, just to be safe. There we go. We can just stand in the distance here, let our creatures tank up the damage, and just pick up the rewards once they have killed everything. Set ring. Could be a BK. It was not this time, but it could have been. That is a really oh, actually, we didn't kill these 3 guys on the outside, but it's a very fast and safe way of doing Travancore. One of the better builds at doing Travancore. There we go. Not bad at all. So let's take a look at Chaos. Alright, arriving in Chaos. Time to see what we can do. Get our decoys out as soon as we relocate to a different position. Sacred Rondash. Okay, 14 all res. That was a big hit. So as you can see, this build does perfectly fine here.
Not even death can save you from me.
Alright, so here we are with the Diablo kill. Let's take a look at how that looks. Stay away from this fire. It's kind of high damage. As you can see, the boss damage is pretty decent. That is pretty damn good. Take a look at that damage, guys. Very, very nice. Out of all the Amazon builds, I think that this is the most surprising that it's as good as it is. As I said, it is a summon build, might not fit for everyone, but if you don't really care what build you play to get your initial gear so you can move on to the build that you really want to play, absolutely check out the Strafe Summon Zone around level 80 to get your farming going. I gave this build a solid 7 out of 10, based on the fact that it can farm Trav very easily. It can do Chaos, and it can also do Chaos very easily, and it has good boss damage. Let's take a look at the gear that we are running. So we are running an Act 5 Mercenary now because we don't have a source of amplified damage, which would be the best because we have a bunch of Valkyries, and I can also summon these decoys. So amplified damage is what you want to strive for in this build, but we don't have it. So we are running a Lawbringer with a Might Mercenary to make up for the lack of amplified damage. He just has crafted safety helmet, safety armor, random 20 attack speed gloves, and blood belt and blood boots. My character is running nothing on swap. We have a Harmony just for the plus skills and a little bit of damage here, some mana after kill. We have Peace for the extra Valkyrie, Lore, random run walk, amulet here, 10 attack speed quiver, 10 attack speed gloves, some resistances, and FCR rings, belts, and some rest boots. Inventory, as before, random charms that you are likely to have by the time you hit level 80. The build is as follows, and this is open for interpretation. We only run 1 point in Strafe because the purpose of Strafe is not to do damage, the purpose is to proc amplify damage. We don't have amp yet, but that's what you want to strive for. So Witchwild String is a good source. You can even use a Lacerator on an Act 5 Mercenary and have a different bow. You can even use a Spirit Sword just for plus skills. Vile Husk Sword gives amplified damage on an Act 5 Mercenary, a Might Mercenary, and then you can use plus skills on your shield and weapon to just boost your summons even more. We have maxed Pierce. You might not have to do that, but you can play around with the Pierce, Crit, and Penetrate as you see fit. And we also maxed Decoy and Valkyrie. We stopped putting points in Crit at 60% because you need to put more than 1 point for 1%. So I found it inefficient. But you can play around with these stats depending on the gear that you have. So that was the last of the, I don't know, 30, 40 builds that we have gone through on this early game for all 7 characters. Remember that there's going to be timestamps underneath in the description for all characters, and you're going to find a TLDR and a ranking for all the builds that we have tested on the beta servers. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me with a like and a subscribe, and also don't forget to comment underneath how you like this format of video compared to what we did in the previous season. And also be on the lookout for the endgame videos that we're going to start working on now. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys soon.